Yeah, no, it's absolutely we are witnessing a major crisis, and I want your comment now on uh, the Trump administration. Now, this is getting into another war or a restart of the war with Iran, talking about planning operations for Cuba, and now making the crux of a what seems to be a domestic political campaign
Mhm.
about China,
About
about
China.
like literally putting a Chinese face on RussiaGate, and now it appears the Trump administration, and I'm curious in your thoughts on this, doesn't really care in the U.S. empire in general, empire of chaos as we call it, doesn't care about the consequences of this war on Iran because he's promising Trump himself, the big oaf is promising these strikes are going to escalate. Now, power plants and oil, etc. Oil saved for last, but there will be even further infrastructure strikes on Iran in the coming days. What explains why the U.S. empire seems to be so carelessly escalating and now opening up multiple fronts potentially globally in this sensitive time?
There would be only one plausible, solid explanation for that. And Danny, this is not a conspiracy theory. I heard the same possibility of discussion from well placed people, which prefer to remain in the shade. It's a calculated implosion of the global economy. Really. Let's blow it all up as
Mm.
our last measure because we know it's not going to get better. And when we blow it up, of course, we can profit here and there. We can zero our unpayable foreign debt. We can restart all over again. So this would be the new meaning of the Great Reset. This is the
Yeah.
only plausible, logical, rational explanation for that. Because everything that Trump is doing, and once again, this is something that you know, this is something that our audience knows. Trump is just a messenger, a lowly grifter as a
Of course.
messenger at the moment. He doesn't decide shit. Everybody knows that. So who's deciding behind? Their agenda is immensely ambitious. And it focuses essentially on neutralizing by all means necessary and without getting into a nuclear war, these three so called existential threats, which happen to be interlocked in
Yeah.
strategic partnerships Russia, China, and Iran. So, what you just mentioned about China is not an accident. Of course, if
Mm.
all that is interlocked. And now they're starting to become slightly more worried because Russia is losing their patience with the proxy war. So Russia is going to be on they're going to release the turbo in the next few weeks. And obviously, this has to do with the internal situation in Russia, with pressure, with the fact that most Russians are saying that that's enough. And they know that this will get worse in terms of the attacks on targets and civilian targets inside the Russian Federation. It can only get worse. They understand that this is now a terrorist drone war against the Russian Federation. So obviously, the pressure on Putin to be not as cold, calculating, and legalistic that his normal state, it doesn't hold anymore. It's not enough anymore. So can you imagine Russia consolidating its strategic victory in Ukraine, while Iran is consolidating its strategic victory in West Asia? There's not much left to these people running the show in the US. Then, okay, let's invade Cuba as a diversion tactic. Let's annex Greenland. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's getting more and more dangerous because they are very, very smart people among these controllers of the narrative. There's no question about that. The dumb ones are in the front line. The dumb ones are the Pete Hegseth crowd. But this is
Right.
just for public consumption. This guy cannot do a simple math equation. But the big picture, which is empires at the end, usually is very, very, very ugly. And of course, in in terms of the current decline, it's directly linked to more and more nations abandoning the petrodollar.
Yeah.
And of course, the internationalization of the yuan. What the emasculated BRICS at the moment have been trying to they are trying to perfect it for at least for the past 2 months. Alternative settlement means of payment in local currencies, multilateral currencies, a new currency, what tokens, whatever. This is being studied by the BRICS too slowly, but they are doing it. And this is the BRICS main mission. We need to establish solid global south linked alternative payment systems. So this whole let's put it this way, Chinese bullet train has already left the station and is picking up speed very, very fast, and there's no return. And the people behind the show in the US, the real ruling classes, they see that. And they don't have anything that, how are they going to counteract that? They can't. The way that the US is already fragmented and the US economy is a joke because it's virtual. The US economy now is Wall Street. They're not producing anything apart from pieces of shit of weapons that they sell as, and when people tried it, it's a total disaster.
So like the F-35s that fly over the UAE, and everyone's wondering if they got struck, but it's very possible that it just, is not operating correctly, which happens all the time.
You're right, exactly. So, is there a plan B? No, because they never thought about a plan B. And that's what happens when empires become self-satisfied, which is the case. The American elites always thought that this free lunch would last forever. You remember? I remember the turn of the millennium. The 21st century is going to be the new American century.
Yeah. Or how about the fall?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, the fall of the Soviet Union. There is no alternative, right? That was all about. It was all about American hegemony. I mean, Francis Fukuyama would say, "Oh no, it's about liberalism in the U.S. just being at the head of it," but really, it was about U.S. hegemony and the model that you are describing. Right? Yeah.
You're right. It's so easy now that we are the only hegemonic power. It's going to be so easy. 21st century, piece of cake. We're already sitting there. Right. So now you have a strategic alliance of peer competitors in Eurasia, China and Russia. You have China as the #1 geoeconomic power in the world. You have Russia as the most important nuclear and hypersonic power in the world. You have all the progression in terms of accumulating political capital all across the global south by Russia and China. And you have Iran, because of this strategic defeat that they just inflicted against all odds against America, is emerging as let's say, the most important middle power of them all. So it's amazing because the trajectory of going down is steady. It's really rolling, but rolling down all the time. Yeah. And on top of it, they have at the presidency of the United States this unqualifiable thing, in fact, completely manipulated in every aspect, and now even more deranged because he knows that he lost control of everything. He won't have control. He already doesn't have control on the oil market, on the bond market, on anything. Losing the midterm elections, everything.
And Pepe,
despite by the whole.
I was going to say in last night when Trump gave that speech, he was basically rating off of CIA note cards. This is a CIA project now, right? And it seems like it's trying to take advantage of everything that you just mentioned. Everything. The CIA is now, this is a great time to test out another election interference scam and reap all the benefits of that. It truly is so opportunistic. But Trump, when he was up there, he looked exactly what you just stated he is, which is a completely controlled figure. He was just up there. Oh yeah, the CIA told me this, and Look how horrible it is. Oh, but they're telling me this, and it affected me negatively, supposedly, and so it's all good. But really, he's just doing their dance.
And it's even worse, Danny, because once again, because of the narcissistic megalomania and Milky Way sized ego, he doesn't read. Number one, he doesn't listen to anybody. Number two, number three, he doesn't engage in intellectual discussions or conceptual discussions or everything that goes against his prejudices that are already established. Immediately rejected. Not to mention zero attention span. It's all there. It's very easy. The clinical evaluation and the psychological evaluation is actually very, very simple. You can have all the symptoms, in one full page. That's it.
Yeah. And
of,
such a, oh no, continue. Sorry.
And of course, that's the pop culture element of it all. He always has to be posing as macho man. It's the only thing that it's in his mind. It's tragic. But once again, I think I said that in other podcasts. It's not tragic in a Shakespearean Greek tragedy way. It's tragic in a sense of a really, really trashy soap opera.
Yeah, and isn't it such a coincidence, Pepe, that after numerous reports this week, first a couple days ago, Chinese exports abroad have reached a record high, $412 billion in the last month alone on demand for green tech and AI. And as this happened, of course, yesterday, a Pew poll found that the majority of the world now views China more favorably than the United States, shockingly enough. And as this happens, then Trump starts talking about China stealing the U.S. elections. And I think this is very connected to the Iran situation because China's economic success and China's growing favorability mirrors what's happening with Iran, just under completely different circumstances. Iran is fighting a war, but has gained quite a lot of favorability around the world just for the simple fact that everyone hates Israel. A lot of people hate the Trump administration around the world. They see Iran fighting back successfully, and they say, wow, that's pretty interesting.
True.
And then, of course, the fact that despite all the attempts that we covered earlier and that you laid out so completely around the targeting of interconnectivity, that's something that's incredibly difficult to stop, given that Iran and China's economic success in the long term, medium term, is going to have a lot of fruits and bear a lot of fruits for Iran. So ultimately, it makes a lot of sense that the Trump administration, the U.S. empire of chaos in general, would start to again thrash about on many fronts, given that
you're right. Absolutely.
Given that it's all connected, as you said.
I'm sure you have noticed that the campaign of demonization of Xinjiang is also back. So wow. It obviously all of it is completely interrelated. The big picture, which is something that many of us have been writing books about it, talking about it nonstop, is the process of Eurasia integration, which is it used to be slowly and surely. Now it's fast and surely expelling the US from Eurasia, period. They will have a minor presence in some nodes of Eurasia. Japan, South Korea depends. I'll be going to South Korea soon. I'm dying to see what's going on in South Korea at the moment. Singapore, but that's about it. Everywhere else and across ASEAN, in Central Asia, where Russia and China are, these are the two real powers. In West Asia, depending on how it's going to be reignited. And of course, India, because the Americans, they want India to remain subservient. That's the only plan for India. It will never be a top ally of the US, and it will never be treated in equal terms. if it's subservient and it sends us a few uh, good brains for Silicon Valley, that's about it. And of course, they have to oppose China as
Yep.
members of the Quad. That's it. This is the American plan for India.
Yep.
So this interconnection of the bulky parts of Eurasia and including very important powers, BRICS members, SCO members, the integration with Central Asia as well. And the US presence a little bit everywhere is, is dwindling. Once again, slowly but surely, and now much faster. Because these nodes of the global south, they look at the war in Iran, they understand perfectly what this war is about in energy terms, in terms of preserving the petrodollar, in terms that it's a war against the global south as a whole, it's a war against the BRICS. Everybody sees that. It's very, very clear. Of course, they have to hedge. For instance, Kazakhstan, which is a very interesting case, they are hedging. They know that they cannot antagonize the Americans. In their faces, there are a lot of American investment and interest in Kazakhstan. So they have to navigate this. But in geopolitical and geoeconomic terms, Kazakhstan, they know that their future is with Russia and China.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Totally.
obvious, absolutely obvious. So when the Americans look at that and say, okay, what means of pressure do we have? No, there are not many. You can, of course, do the only thing that you know how to do, divide and rule. So once again, Taiwan, South China Sea, Xinjiang, another color revolution in Hong Kong, which anything is possible. They will do it all over again. It's the only thing they do. Okay, Philippines, which is easy. Philippines is 40 families, and they alternate themselves. And which president we're going to elect next week? That's it. Philippines is a joke as a political system. So it's easy to control. But you cannot do this in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Thailand, much more complex systems. So there's not much left for them. Okay, let's invade Cuba. Of course, in Latin America. Latin America is, I don't even start talking about it because it gets me in tears looking at the way Latin America is being, practically everything under huge, enormous. So the last stop will be Brazil, and anything can happen with this Brazilian. And anything can happen.
They're talking about it already. I mean, the United States is already talking about
the American interference. Talking about election interference, the American interference in these Brazilian elections is going to be something, off the charts.
Yep.
Because they know it's the last. This will be the cherry in their cake, the Western Hemisphere cake.
Right. Yeah, because it would be the last government. It would be the last government that is part of that so-called pink tide. So, but really, it's a part of the last of the sovereign leaders that all of them have either been election cheated out outside of Cuba, Nicaragua, but on the South American continent. Yes.
Right.
But they've all been taken out by election interference by
election
interference by the United States. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But does that alter the balance of power on a global scale? No. Latin America is too, let's say, off the map. Latin America is not Eurasia. The big game is across Eurasia. Even before Mackinder, everybody knew that. World history always knew that the center of the action politically is Eurasia.
Right. Yeah, and everything that the U.S. has done to Latin America, we've gone through these seasons before. It'll swing back and forth because what ends up happening is the U.S. sponsored leaders, governments, death squads, they tend to not govern well, and they tend to cause absolute mayhem on economic and political realities of people. So usually it swings back and forth. I don't know if we can trust in a couple years' time that the landscape, even in Latin America, will look the same. But Pepe, I want to ask one last question to you about the Saudi factor here, because
this is
China. We have people forget that China. The reason why China would be so pissed right now is China wants to keep relations good with Saudi Arabia and Iran, and it was the one who brokered that
They
normalization
broke
process.
the reapproximation.
Now Saudi Arabia is moving quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next several weeks, Pepe, that Saudi Arabia now enters the fray in this restart of the Iran war, because all the entire winds are blowing in that direction. If attacking Yemen, which Saudi has had its butt kicked a few times by the Yemenis and by Ansarallah, what stops Saudi Arabia from doing what it did earlier in the war during the first 40 days, which is foolishly be a party of U.S. attacks? What stops? I don't know. I don't see it. So your thoughts on this, because this was a huge deal for China, not only to solidify BRICS, but also to solidify its own relationship with and to ease tensions between, two countries that are obviously going to be major players in that region for a long time, at least for the immediate future, with Saudi Arabia, at least. Your
What?
thoughts?
Yes, and this has been a process. It started when the Russians. It was fascinating how hidden and kept from public examination this process was. The Russians approached the Saudis and the Iranians separately. This is how it started. Then they start to meet with Iranians and Saudis and Russians. And then the Russians said, okay, this is the first part. They threw the ball to the other side, to the Chinese. And they basically told the Chinese, look, you finish it and you can reap the rewards. It's okay. For us, it's we have good relations with both for a long time, but it's up to you to put them together, and then you cultivate your own relations with the three of us. So this was sealed in Beijing with the full weight of the Chinese government brokering a diplomatic deal between Riyadh and Tehran. So obviously this started to evolve, because it then started to involve Pakistan as well. I'm talking about how the Chinese were looking at the whole thing. It's absolutely fascinating, in fact. So they have two different partnerships, one with Pakistan, with Iran. They are neighbors, and one of them is a neighbor of China. And they're both part of the Belt and Road, different levels. So they have to be on best possible relations. So when the war started, the Chinese looked, oh shit, one of our key, okay, let's say along with Saudi Arabia for oil, Iran for gas. One of our key partners in West Asia is being attacked by the empire. And we have our friend here on the side. He could lay a hand and lend a hand to Iran. So that was the beginning of this, what evolved into the Pakistan-Iran closer relationship, with the Chinese in the background providing all the, diplomatic support, you name, and led to the MOU as well. Because the Chinese, from the beginning, this is a very Chinese foreign policy position. We want peace in West Asia. It doesn't matter how. We want free flow of trade. Doesn't matter how, even in the middle of a war. So this is their main rationale. So obviously they said, okay, we can use Pakistan to try to find a deal. So when you have breaking the MOU means breaking the relationship with China, and the relationship between China, Pakistan, and Iran at the same time. Yeah. Which brings us to the Saudi factor. From the beginning, everybody assumed that the Saudis were on board in terms of a normalization. The first meeting in Islamabad, I'm sure all of you remember. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt. This was the first stepping stone that led to Islamabad meeting, and then led to the meeting in Switzerland. And after, of course, and then when we had the MOU, Trump blew it. But everybody knew that he would blow it anyway. But the problem is this relationship, China, Pakistan, Iran, that was solidifying. And in the background, we had Qatar, Oman, Turkey, Egypt, but also Saudi Arabia from the beginning. So now Saudi Arabia makes a move that directly blows up this conglomerate and against an adversary that they know is going to respond. You don't mess with the Yemenis. This should be probably one of the first lessons in history. Never mess with the Yemenis.
Hey, China and Russia don't, and they get a lot of benefits from it, but the empire does, and they get a lot of.
The empire did. You saw what happened to the empire when they messed with the Yemenis.
Yeah.
So now Saudi Arabia, against their own interests and against this alignment of, okay, let's try to find an accommodation, right? They do this absolutely foolish move. So, that no wonder the whole thing is upside down. And it gets much more dangerous because of the military pact. So a few weeks ago, Asim Munir himself, Field Marshal, head of the army, the most important the most powerful person in Pakistan. He went to Riyadh to talk to MBS face to face to upgrade their military pact. And that includes an attack on Saudi Arabia and an attack on Pakistan. So obviously the Iranians are looking at all that and say, oh, what the hell? We're going to help our friends in Yemen, obviously. We are not planning to attack Saudi Arabia, but how involved are the Saudis in terms of not attacking a member of the Axis of Resistance and maybe eventually start playing a double game and attacking us? So they need reassurances from the Pakistanis. And in the back, the Chinese are looking at all that absolutely horrified. Because from the beginning, they were putting this thing together.
Yeah.
So, it's an immensely dangerous crossroads that we are now. Immensely dangerous. And of course, the Yemenis never considered Bab al-Mandab as a card to be played immediately. For them, it was okay. No. If we get to a nuclear point, then we play our nuclear card, which is Bab al-Mandab.
It's a big bang.
So probably they won't play it now. But there's got to be some response. And obviously, there's got to be some intervention by the Pakistanis to tell the Saudis, cool down. One of the things that we heard, and I'm waiting for a confirmation today, is that the Pakistanis actually told the Saudis, cool down. Because then you're going to blow
and
us
it
all.
Seems like they somewhat have. It seems like they somewhat have as well.
They somewhat have for the moment. Yeah, it seems like they somewhat have for the moment. Right. Which would be the only rational way to proceed, right?
Yep.
But I think this is just an example for all of you of the whole thing hangs by a thread. One single wrong move, the whole thing collapses.